Prepare for the notes. Prepare for the notes.
Kannst dich Leute ja schon mal begrüßen.
Hello and welcome. Welcome, friends and family, to the masterful TV show with annoying noises by Sascha. And knowledge management, but just a bit. Was ist das?
Wow.
Since the last episode, we have had quite a few interesting topics popping up, but couldn't yet decide which one we want to focus on. So maybe we just go with anything that comes to our minds. Is that a yes? No. And the range of topics includes, but is not limited to, like how much you can automate away all the work from your Zettelkasten, what to do with non-text based things, pictures, music, sound, and something else, which I forgot. So maybe we... So maybe because it comes to my mind all the time, this automation thing. First, what's interesting about the topic of automation is that I can relate to that, because it was my main motivation back in the day when I started my own archive. But from today's vantage point, like 5 or 6 years, 7 years after I started, I see the value of not doing things automatically, but doing things on my own manually. And this is kind of counterintuitive, because you want a tool to do all the work for you that you don't want to do manually. And then in the end, in my case at least, it turns out that the stuff I now enjoy and the stuff that now makes me the most productive is the stuff I initially wanted to manage away. And it's still part of my...
Can you give an example or make it more concrete?
Of course. But it could take a while. The one thing I wanted to automate away before I assembled lots of my notes in the first year of Zettelkasten usage was having to manually identify connections, because I experimented with an application called DevonThink. And DevonThink's unique selling point is the super weird and intelligent search algorithm. And
is it weird because it is intelligent?
Yeah. But it's not this way that it's advertised. It's just advertised as a super intelligent, I think. And the intelligence lies in a semantic analysis of everything you put into there, like text, full text searchable PDFs, notes you type yourselves, websites or web clippings. Everything that's textual gets put into this search database, and out comes suggestions for keywords or related search terms when you look at a certain node. And I found this to be very clever. I thought, hey, if this application can take away the work of linking with its superior knowledge, with its superior knowledge, because it has algorithms which provide the same results every time. You put in the same data set and you get out the same results. as opposed to my brain, which sometimes forms a spontaneous association. Then I have to find out which note exactly I did think about, because I don't remember exactly what's going on in my head. Have to dig deeper and then maybe find the thing I wanted to link to. That was nice, but it was also very cumbersome and error prone, because I would miss a lot of the obvious links, because because they get orphaned, because they weren't used that much, so I couldn't remember them. So the promise of automatization sounded very promising. But in the end, now, like 6 or 7 years later, I highly value the links that I did put in there manually, because they contain something that I can still backtrack in my personal history. I can still come up with the reason why I put the link here, and what this annotation for the link means, and have a probably similar idea again when reconstructing what was going on back when I put the link in there. And this is, it's maybe it's just the feeling of finding my past self in my archive, and reconstructing what was going on 4 years ago, for example. That puts the fun into the process, and that makes it feel valuable. But since it's also the only thing that I have in my archive, the only kind of link that I have, all links are put in there manually. Maybe because of that, my opinion might be skewed. Maybe some kind of automatization would have helped to form better links, to discover stuff that was getting lost in the depth of my messy note archive. So I have the feeling that it's very useful what I did, and that this is a way to go. On the other hand, I don't have a good counterexample where automatization works in your favor. So I cannot really say that automatization does result in mayhem.
Can you describe the emotional appeal of this automatization?
It's here, the prominent feeling is a feeling of security, or the promise of security. There's this tool which is, because it does predictable things, because it does predictable things, I can rely on it, and then this tool can take a lot of the burden off of me, of missing connections that would be useful when I write a paper, or maybe even a book, to enrich the material. This kind of security, of not the fear of missing out, so to speak, because I doubt that I'm clever enough to find all the things that need to go in there in the end.
Yeah, I think with Christian example, and I cannot give myself as an example not because I was immune to such Versuchung, such temptations, but I didn't have the technical skills to go out and search the right software and so on. I was quite unable to handle myself on the computer. But no, there's no but. But in Christian example, I think it reflects the culprits of knowledge work, because it's an emotional thing that leads to such ideas, that the system, the Zettelkasten, the archive, or the software or whatever you're focusing on can do something for you. Um, in many cases, and at least in many cases in which I have discussed it and gave advice or took advice, one issue was low low esteem in capabilities, either in the software or um, in oneself. And if you go with such values, with such a virtue or lack of virtue, I'd rather call it, into the knowledge work, then you will have a big problem. And I think that's one point that gets overlooked sometimes in knowledge work. That is the emotional side, because you don't only have to deal with citations and difficult texts and images and how to translate images into text and vice versa, but with yourself, with insecurity, with the unknown, with your overconfidence, which is more of one of my weaknesses, and such things. And I think it is helpful to have a healthy perspective on what any system and any software can do for you, really can do for you, so you can have realistic expectations and yet take the responsibility of knowledge work. Um, I and that connects to the thought of automatization. What can the archive, the Zettelkasten, the software do for you? And I would argue not so much. It should enhances what you do anyway. For example, we use NVAlt. Okay, I use NVAlt because Christian told me to use it, but we use NVAlt because it provides a fast way. It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't make a new node for me, but it enables me to make the node a bit faster so I can do more. And the difference is that with my approach now, with all the improvements and what things I have learned in the last couple of years, now the knowledge work is more difficult for me. It feels more hard, more exhausting. Why? Because now I'm not limited by uncertainty, limited by too many shortcuts, and with the things I would call the craftsman side of using a software, how you navigate in the archive, how you make a link, how you and all this question that gets out of the way. And I would compare it with training. If you have, for example, if you learn new techniques, let's say you're a martial artist and you learn some throws and perhaps one or two punching techniques. This session, it can last forever and you wouldn't be guessed. You are quite confused, and at a point you don't have the concentration and the focus to continue, but you are not nearly as gassed if you are very proficient in what you do, doesn't have to learn many new things, doesn't have to figure some things out, but concentrate on the conditioning, concentrate on drilling the techniques, and concentrate on being creative, which means okay, you have your toolbox of techniques, and now you use it in a creative way. This is far more difficult, or no, not difficult, but far more exhausting than figure stuff out. It's a whole new challenge to go on the level, and that's in sports. It's quite common. The better you are in sports, the more you can exhaust yourself. The more exhaustion is needed, and in my opinion, the same holds true for knowledge work. So in the beginning, let's imagine you are totally new to the game and you don't know how to cite, you don't know how to what a citation is, how it should like, what the difference to a paraphrase is, or whatever. Then you figure such things out, and you learn one bit at a time at a very slow rate. But if you're proficient in that, then you have to do the hard work to really fuck up your brain, and I say it like this, to get new ideas. And that is something that no system can do for you. This is just a thing, or this is an action in your head. And the Zettelkasten method provides the tools, or at least, no, it provides the tools, so it doesn't get in the way of thinking creatively and thinking in a very exhausting way, because you think much, you think intensively, and that's the main purpose, I think, from any system or software, that doesn't get in the way. And if you have achieved, danke, yeah, no problem. What for, Jay? Yeah, I lost the fun.
Fantastic.
No, that's not fantastic.
At least you're not taking up anymore. It's a great improvement. Yeah, the thing that you say is that the knowledge work is hard. One way or another, it's going to be hard. And that at first, when you start on the journey of becoming, maybe an academic, or maybe if you just go to university and you're in the first semester, that you have to figure out a lot of, I'll put it differently, that a lot of the obstacles you have to overcome
Lost the colors on your carpet.
are technical are technical problems, and not so much knowledge work related problems, in a way that they relate to the actual working with knowledge, but more working your way up to a proficiency level that you can do knowledge work in the first place, and not get hindered by citation requirements and things like that. So would you say that this
You or me?
you, would you say that, but you too, if you want to chime in, people in the world, what would you say about the following?
I'm the world population?
No, I just included all the rest. Everyone is included.
Me too.
Yes.
Okay.
You're part of the population.
Please continue.
Mr.
Don't waste my
Cyborg.
time.
Okay.
Our time. I speak for the world population.
Yeah, where's the Faden gone?
What would you say? You asked.
Yeah, what would you say? But about what? About that a lot of the wishes people have are made up before they really dive into the process and have hands-on experience and know what they would rather be wishing for. So that these wishes are like, stuff you, even if you don't go to university, you could come up with a list of wishes, stuff that you would want if you would go to university, like as a thought experiment, for example. So what would you say, are these wishes like childish or premature, or not related, like too early in the personal development of becoming a knowledge worker to really hold their ground?
I wouldn't call it. Are you finished? I wouldn't call it childish, because you are in a different point, and at some level, the wishes you have as a beginner are quite wise. And I can't remember what book it is, but it's called something like Amateur Beats Master, or something like. I think it's a book on chess. because as a beginner you have a beginner's mind, and therefore you don't have all the filters you build up that are useful but sometimes get in the way to have a clear picture. Therefore I wouldn't dismiss the beginner's perspective, but I think in knowledge work it's not so different from any other area. And yeah, in my not so long life, um, I think in
Mm.
every area I I penetrated, I think the pattern is quite similar. In the beginning, you have mostly unexperienced ideas of how it should work and how it will work, and next to every time you get a reality check. And I learned from that. So if I begin something, I don't form any wishes, or at least I hold them in, try it out, and then I come out and yeah, try to work stuff out, things out that I'm aiming for. So I think what is more concrete, or let's make it more concrete in the knowledge work. In the beginning, I think knowledge work, or as a beginner's knowledge worker, it's very difficult to cope with the extreme amount of knowledge that is out there, and you try to you try it's like drinking the sea or drinking an ocean. You are willing to try to drink the ocean, and if you continue the work, you really you quickly realize that this is not possible, and you come up with strategies just to cope with the idea that you can't even have a tiny bit of this ocean in yourself without drowning. And I think that is then the point where you have more realistic ideas, and now even more concrete. In the beginning, I thought, okay, I really stuff my archive with everything I read, and make every connection that I find, and go very thoroughly. And now when my archive grows, and because I acquire more and more time to work within my archive, um, the growth accelerates, and the problems, or the rather say the challenges, expand. And now it's for me very clear that at some point I'm not willing to go even in the top level of my structure department, um, to link the node, because I have to trust um, my estimation what links are very useful, and which holes I let happen for the sake of sanity, and for the sake of doing knowledge work, and not getting caught up in the dynamic of the system itself. Because if you try to do everything all the time, you will fail, because um, because you do very much work in the detail, and don't learn, and don't do much knowledge work in the broad stuff. It's like the same in golf. What do you do as your first hit in golf? You do a very hard, very long shot, or if you like me, you try to hit the ball and give up. No, I wouldn't give up. I would rather hit someone. But anyhow, you at least try to hit long and hard. But of course, it's not very precise, and it doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be precise, because precision in the beginning is not appropriate. Okay, in the golf game perhaps, but not in knowledge work, not in thinking. I got this concept from Manfred Spitzer, who's a German psychiatrist, and wrote some famous books on the digital world, on some dangers of internet and television and something like that. Because the more imprecise you are in the beginning, the faster you learn, and it holds true for knowledge work. And if you dig in deep, you have to be more precise. What does it mean? On the top level of my archive, it's a pity that we have such a small demonstration archive for now. I hope that I find the time to expand on that, because the dynamic of an archive is quite different if it's big, like a couple thousand of nodes, or small, or very small like that with a dozen or something nodes. So I go on the top level. For example, if I have written a note and now I want to link it and integrate it in the archive, and I don't go thoroughly in the top level. So let's imagine I write a note on nutrition. I wouldn't go into the structure and overview notes about agriculture, for example, unless it's very obvious. I would just concentrate on the nutrition department and work myself up in there, and then it can happen that I have an idea. I search for a place to put it, and then it happens that I link it to the neighboring nodes and have something like a local Klumpen, like a local cluster. And in the process of forming this local cluster, I have some further associations, and perhaps then I go into the agriculture department and do some links. And this is quite similar to the systems image that I have from Frederick Wester. I don't know if it's German or how it's pronounced. He ist associated to die neuen Grenzen des Wachstums, wie heißt das auf some ecological things. I believe Christian can put it in the description afterwards.
Merci beaucoup.
Systems don't work like even nets. They have local clusters with very deep and very, very interconnected networks, and they have sparingly connections to other clusters. So you have local stability, global mobility, and so on and so forth. And you can see it in every system. You can see it in the nature. So, for example, you have a tree that is very, very solid. It's a closed system. It's very tight with its connections to each other. Every cell is hardly connected to the neighboring cell, and so on and so forth. A forest, for example, is much more fluid. If you take away a tree, perhaps some beaver eats up one or cuts one. You have the animals that are fluid, and so on and so forth. The ecosystem surrounding a tree is much more mobile. It's the same in the body, because I can move. My limbs can move freely, but my cells are very immobile, and my organelles, which are like the organs of the cells, are even more immobile. And imagine your archive as a living being, an organic system, and if you want to have an organic system, and because organic systems have much benefits over inorganic systems, I need to elaborate on that later on, perhaps a bit more prepared. Then you have to sacrifice the all surrounding net, the deep net, for some organic holes, missing pieces. Because if you let out some things, you give yourself more mobility. You have local clusters that you can work very thoroughly in details, and you have the possibility to make great overviews because you sacrifice detail for broadness, for example. What is the point? What I'm saying here?
I think your point is don't over-engineer because things are fluid, moving, and
Yeah,
in constant fluctuation.
perfect.
Ah.
Now I think what I try to say is the the concept of total control is derived from the emotional insecurity from the beginning of being a knowledge worker, and to mature as a knowledge worker, I would say to ripen as a knowledge worker, but I think it's not the same.
Knowledge worker on the tree.
Is to give up the control. You have only such amount of time. For example, I have 4 to 6 hours, two times a week to really concentrate on knowledge work, and all the other knowledge work is just in between and not so concentrated. And in there, I have only such time and such energy to my hands for knowledge work. So what do I decide for? Do I really want to work out every detail in the idea that I now want to develop, or do I want to make broad, general tries to have ideas? For example, now I'm in a detail mode because I'm picking apart the flow concept of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, or Mihai Csikszentmihalyi is his name, the great psychologist whose name is not pronounced other than the Hungary people or Bulgarian people. I don't know, but um, um, and so what I do is I cut the concepts from each other. So yes, something that is called optimal experience, and something the flow concept, some autotelic character and autotelic experience, and very much concepts, and they are quite glued together because I think he okay, the details are not important. I'm flowing away with my ideas, but I take apart all the things and I will put it in a new way together because I think I can improve on that theory and integrate it in my own theory of or theories of different kinds. And what I do now is very detailed. So at some sessions, I'm just advancing 1 to 3 pages at a time, but I'm writing between 4 and 7,000 words, or up to 30 or sometimes more notes, just to work things out. And that's the very detailed thing, and that I'm doing now. But it's not like that I'm like all over my archive to connect all these ideas, because this is not what I want. This is distracting me. So a sacrifice, for example, perhaps a genius idea, because I can because of a possible connection between flow and agriculture, or the concept of experience and perhaps martial arts or whatever is in my archive, for the detail work. So this is what you experience in your life. You can't concentrate on a thing without removing every other thing in your perception. And you can concentrate on one thing. You can concentrate on the broad perspective, have an overview, and have things in your focus. You just can't concentrate. You have only one choice: broad perspective or one thing. Okay, perhaps a bit in between. You can concentrate on a few things, but you have to choose your focus, and that's not different in the knowledge work. And in my opinion, it's a pattern all over the place that you have to separate, you have to concentrate on the extremes. So be very detailed at times and very broad on other times. Or in endurance training, for example, is the same. You do 20 to 30% of very intense work, like interval training and sprint training and something like that. Then you have very few medium intensity, medium volume training, and a very high volume of low intensity work. And it holds true for next to every endeavor. For example, if you see your life, you concentrate, you work hard, but also you rest hard. You just let the balls hang out of the table. What? Okay, in German it's more funny. Or another one. You just put the tits on the table. Why is everything on the table? Okay, I'm getting away. So you rest hard. You really rest and don't have something on the middle ground. On the middle ground, or being on the middle ground is called chronic stress. No rest, but no work is done. And
Oh la la, isn't that the barbell method stuff?
yes, but you can tell that.
Oh, Textverständnis. Oh, how nice that I just have read this book that I stole from Sascha's library. It's the Anti-Fragile book from by Nassim Taleb again.
It's called Anti-Fragile. The book itself is not
It's
Anti-Fragile.
the Anti-Fragile book. It still doesn't work that well.
Anti-Fragile.
Yeah, the book is called Anti-Fragile and the author is
Nassim Taleb.
Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He says people pronounce his name wrong all the time, but I still haven't have him heard say his name himself, so I don't know.
How can you
correct?
Pronounce it wrong? Taleb. Taleb.
I mean, even or maybe Taleb, something like that. You know, over Americanify.
Liban is so it's more Arabic, but not quite Arabic.
Taleb. Whatever. So this barbell thing is about just another way to put what Sascha just said. The middle ground is toxic if you stay in the middle ground all the time, like 100% of your life. Like being mildly awake without resting, without sleeping would be very. It would be obvious that you would get killed if you don't sleep from time to time. So the barbell method or the barbell thing, the picture that you should have in mind is that the barbell has the load on two sides, two extreme sides, and the middle is rather flat. You know, there's just the bar.
Thin.
It's not flat. Okay, so it's thin. So you have a lot in one extreme and a lot in the other, but not so much in between, because all this in betweenness, all these compromises will kill you in the end, in the long run. It's not always a question of life and death, I admit, but a lot of times it's connected to your overall well-being, to your progress, to making your life worse or better. It doesn't matter if it's finance, fitness, knowledge work, or just plain
Life.
The vegetation part about it.
What?
The vegetative? No, I know just the plain being and being alive stuff, like breathing and eating and stuff. Yeah. So all this stuff is very stuffy, and it's better to stuff stuff in the extremes and not in the middle forever. So yeah.
That's a thing from Nassim Taleb. It's the benefit of variability or volatility for organic systems. So organic systems benefit from volatility. So it's if it's everything is even. For example, let's imagine you connect every node to every node. Then no node has any meaning anymore because connection means make distinctions. And if you connect too heavy, you don't have distinctions. So you distinct between local connections like very direct linking and very broad linking. For example, have an overview node about a cluster and then link this overview node to another overview node and say, okay, this is quite similar, or some other vague connection. So
Do you remember the better word than bottleneck? I always use bottleneck to illustrate stuff like this, where you have something big and then a really huge topic with lots of details in your mind, and then you think about another topic, and this thinking about another topic itself is a very it's not like this throughput. You don't connect every node to this thing, but it's
okay,
bottleneck.
we ask the our viewers. We have a whole lot of them, 5.
If you come up with something that's better
Yeah.
than a bottleneck, because bottleneck is so limiting
Yeah, the bottleneck. The bottleneck.
metaphor.
The bottleneck problem is that a bottleneck normally is something where something is limited. So, for example, a bottleneck is more like your finance budget, because it's like a rate limiting step or something. That's a bottleneck, and we are searching for a word to express something like a prisma, or like a lens, or something that have big input and very small output, but not in a limited way. I have no better word.
Yeah. So chat along, tell us your ideas, your images and metaphors. And there was one thing that you said, like 15 minutes ago, maybe, which was about connected to the fear of missing out in detail. That you have to sacrifice detail, and maybe, and this was the point that would strike fear into the heart of a lot of people, I imagine, of sacrificing, having a very cool idea of connecting this one thing to another thing, but you don't do that because you don't go into detail right now. So this opportunity is like wasted. That's the impression people have when they think about not going into detail, not putting in the work. But isn't there maybe an upside they don't see because they focus on what they might lose,
Yeah.
which is just in front of them?
I think one should realize that the rate limiting step, the rare resource, was es denn knapp? Yeah, the limited, or your the limited resource is not in the archive. It's not that you miss out there, or you can have more there, but the rate limiting resource is in your head. For example, if you have 4 hours of work in you, you have only so much thoughts that you can put into words, or even think. And therefore, if you are able to think continuously, not being hindered by your system, or hindered by your ability of, or your craftsmanship of knowledge work, like typing or reading, or understanding, just comprehending the text itself and not the ideas behind that, then there's no reason to think that you are missing out, because if you are able to think continuously, to think all the time, and not being don't have the burden of or being distracted by not getting your fingers together to type, then you're doing all you can. You have only such an amount of lifetime, such an amount of time you can put into knowledge work, because I think you need to have to sleep and you need to have to make yourself happy, like with your girlfriend or alone, and have many other duties to yourself, to your life. And if you consider that, then what you can do is not so much. You can think, you can improve your abilities to such an extent that craftsmanship of knowledge work does not get in your way. And then everything goes to, okay, do you find the right books, or should I say, do you concentrate on the best books you can? For example, I don't read everything, um, and for example, in the fitness scene, I'm as a personal trainer. It's my job to constantly improving my knowledge, constantly putting things into practice. But I rarely read blogs in this field, because reading blogs is not the most productive thing I can do, and not the most productive resource or the most useful resource for knowledge work in this field. So what I do is I read books, because books offer long, was ist lange Sinneinheit? Long unit of sense.
Meaning.
Meaning, meaning is better. For example, if I have a book on gymnastics that is, I think, 400 pages or 500 pages. So it's an idea about gymnastics that spans over 400-500 pages. So the author has very much time to unfold his ideas, to put them into structure, to have a structure, and therefore blogger, if you have a blog post, you have just a single idea, which is cool sometimes if the blog is good, but most of the time blogs don't serve as information, but rather as self-promotion, and I don't have time to filter such self-promotion. That's an example to have the right material. So prefer always books or good articles. If you're into scientific work.
So would you say that length is a good measure on its own?
Okay, no, but yeah, there are very good short books, of course, and some blog posts are mind blowing. That is it's not an absolute rule, but my efforts go into searching good books, and I take sometimes an hour or two to skim some blogs and get new ideas or get ideas, because it's like investing. 90% of your investing should go into safe revenue investing, like real estate or something. It's an idea from Nassim Taleb, not mine. 10% of the investing should go in high risk venture investing. So you have a safe base, and sometimes you get a spike. And the same holds, it just repeats itself in everything. So now, when I'm finished with a few project as always, I will concentrate on Nietzsche. I have the, what is called, Gesamtwerk. I have basically all the books in one package. The main edition that you can cite, or you're allowed to cite to be scientific, let's put it in that way. And I will dig myself very deep into Nietzsche, because I know that it's productive. Every time I read 2 lines in Nietzsche, I need to write 20 times 20 pages to get it out of my head. So for me, reading Nietzsche is a very productive resource for knowledge work, because I can produce very much. I am inspired by him. Another example is Nassim Taleb. I think for the book I needed weeks, how much? 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 7 weeks?
Just the Verzetteling?
Yeah.
Yeah,
something like
2 months,
like 2 months. Because I went very thoroughly through every idea. I knew from the reading, and in the first pages I was intrigued by his ideas, and then I really concentrate on that. I have another book on Greek heroism, and I think I read the book in, I don't know, an hour or something. Um, it was easy written, but I think I have one note or two notes out of it, and then I put it away. I don't even make the effort to work with it, because I know that it's not productive. Because now I don't have the fear of missing out, but I know I would miss out, because if I concentrate on this bad book, or I'd rather say non-productive book for me, I would waste my time, because I know there are so much good books. And yeah, that's the one thing you have to you have to be carefully how you invest your time on the one side, but then also have the trust, or accept that you have such a limit, just this much, so much time, and if you invest it wisely, concentrate, work deep, as Karl Newport would say, then you have done everything what you can do, and then the system is not so important how you think. It's cool to have a good system, and it's liberating, and because of that, of course, we work on that system. But if you see how the ancient great thinkers worked, they had quite similar things. I'm quite impressed how many notes Nietzsche took, and how much work he put into books. And I think he worked quite similar to the Zettelkasten method, in a way that he has very many snippets, and it's a quite common pattern in ancient thinkers, that they have snippets, so they have little things to tinker on. Um, but they didn't have any digital tool. They didn't have any digital citation manager or anything. Even the ancient Greeks, they had what is papyrus? Papyrus. They had this, the scrolls. They just walked around and talked, and sometimes they wrote something, and they were very productive. So it's not the rate limiting step what the system have, and it's not the rate limiting step. It cannot magnify your efforts so much, but the main thing it can go out of the way, out of your way, and then you are left with your own thinking, which can be very humbling, um, because now you don't have any excuse. It's up to you to make the best out of your time, and yeah, that's perhaps the philosophical side of knowledge work.
So to close the loop of musing about automation and manual work, all this fuss about missing out and having to automate stuff, and having an automated system, tools and computer programs that do the work for you. The problem with that is that the computer program, rightly so, doesn't distinguish between important and unimportant. It treats everything the same, which is, if that's all you have, like auto-suggested connections, for example, then you don't have any benefit in the end, and you could have just as well left them out, because they're just not barbellish. They don't form clusters. It's just very homogeneous.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, because I think they could form clusters. Like, for example, if you tag many nodes with something, then the nodes would cluster around this tag. But I would say that the cluster itself loses its meaning, because now you have, in German it's called the difference between Raum and Menge. But
Yeah, that's super fancy mathematics stuff. Nobody
I would
knows.
I would call it's a difference because it's a difference in structure. If you do it yourself, you have a very deep structure you understand, and structure means you have distinctions and you have hierarchy, for example, and such concepts apply to this structure. If you let the system do it, you just have amount. You have slumps, you have clumps, you have ugly big pieces of dirt and not structures and beautiful knowledge, I would say, in a pathetically literally way.
So one thing about blogs that you said, maybe we should put a side note about reading blogs and doing knowledge work based on the overflow of information that the internet provides. I mean, in addition to the overflow of potential information that lies in the next library you can find, like was it the University of Bielefeld library? I don't know where the number comes from, but it was like 300,000 days or years of constant reading to go through all contents in this one library, and it's utterly not possible to do this. So we have to compromise. Um, so we have to compromise, and now the internet comes along with all the pushy things like blog posts and social media linkage and feeds and stuff like that. So automating that away sounds nice. There's this huge stream coming at you, coming into your face, and then you put up this filter, which or this protective screen that deals with all the noise and maybe just keeps the good stuff, things like that. So automation seems to promise a cure against the technical, very technological, the technology based inputs that we have. There's technology that allows us to do things in a very computery way, and now we use the computer to deal with it and protect ourselves from it. But in the end, this simple thing that you said is much more powerful.
Mr. Anderson.
Like not reading blogs at all. This is probably a better idea to ditch reading blogs in the field you're interested in and focus on reading books to more wisely invest in your time. And this is counterintuitive. You want to have access to all the world's knowledge, and there are people writing about interesting things. And now this guy here comes along and says, "Oh, unsubscribe if you can, or ditch your feed reader, or ditch your manual email subscriptions, and don't waste your life." This is a whole other dimension. Now it's about wasting one's life and not about how to deal with a flood of information anymore.
I can have a side note how I deal with the overflowing blogs. At some point, I had 13,000 unread articles, and I don't know if I put them all on the red mode and just throw them away. But one thing I have subscribed to many blogs, and if one blog has one shit blog post, for example, very heavy use of clickbait or something, I put it in the garbage folder. I don't delete the subscription because I don't want to forget about it and then resubscribe to it. And the garbage folder, I just mark it as red as in the moment I receive new blog posts, for example.
So it's like your shame folder.
Yes, my shame folder. I like this name. I think I put it in that mind. Shout out and Luhmann. Should I shout out Luhmann or to Luhmann? I don't know. Is it?
So maybe we have just talked our way through another hour without
Yes.
focus. And now Sandra's asking about structural notes, where they come from.
You mean Mr. Anderson?
Oh, well, yes. Excuse me, Mr. Anderson has this question, and yeah,
Yeah, very good question.
what should we do?
Okay, it's like 10
Can we
minutes.
demo it?
I will demo it.
Okay. Don't forget to hide our faces or put them into the corner so
Yeah.
people are not distracted.
Yes.
I think it looks
Yes.
like we're in a bathtub.
Yes.
Maybe I should put an
Yes.
animation here.
Sources. So, what is the question? Okay, great stuff. I have to read it. Great stuff as always, guys. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. One question. Can you show how and when you create an overview node? Do you start bottom up with a single node or top down? It's quite different. There are many processes, but I will show one example. So, some German nodes are.
How did that come in there?
I had a meeting with Martin Weisbrand.
So you demoed, and he's not.
So, okay. How do I do? This is the flow over node, the over node, overview node. So let's imagine, let's have a book I read. Let's say this. Getting Things Done from David Allen, a book on self-management that is not very good. And only not very good people like it.
It's the best.
Now I have several different options. Let's say I really want to dig in this book, but not only in the ideas of this book, but work with this book. Normally with this, okay, the book is good, but let's imagine it is something I would go back very often. Like for me, it would be Nietzsche, it would be Nassim Taleb, or something like that. So I'm concentrating on the book. What I do is just create a node. Oh, yeah, sometimes it happens. And I have to.
Oh, the script is not so working.
Yes, but I have to make it with a click.
Have we ever checked if this pop-up box shows on the video screen?
No.
What a shame.
Okay, perhaps some did you see a pop-up box? No. Hast du gesehen? Okay.
Pop-up box.
Yeah, it's Pech. So what I do is here, the double hash L means that this node concerns something about life, something practical. So I have the possibility to filter my my archive for such nodes, and the double hash. Okay, Ü, it's a U with the double dots over it. A German thing. I have two
Umlaut.
Umlaut.
That's the technical term in English.
Really? Okay, it's Umlaut. And I have two kinds of overview nodes. The first one is Ü1, and this is quite the top level. So if I link, they can move down. For example, I can show you that. Then I put this title.
Why not GTD? Sucker.
And perhaps, I don't know, which year is it? Komm schon, du weißt das auswendig.
Ellen 2000 something.
2000 something. 2001. Okay. I would go with my.
Didn't pass the fan test.
I go with. This is, for example, the hashtag for with the side key. So I, if I search.
Why 12?
What?
Why 2012? And not 1.
Okay, it's wrong. So, this is something I'm working out from now. I'm building up like an catalog for my books, and this is not a technique that is worked out. I'm experimenting with different things. So, I would make some notes. Let's say blah blah, and in before I make something like this. This would be the beginning, and then I work myself through it, and let's imagine it's page 32. This is how my overview over the book would look like if I'm.
So the short of this is that for a book which is which you can plan to continue to work on, and where you know that there's a lot of connected stuff and a lot of structure in there, and that a lot of structure will be in your archive, then you start top down.
Yes. Sometimes I did it with this note here. The wheat is deadly. Sometimes I write some things down. For example, let's imagine I write something about Mr. Anderson. So it's about life. Something's okay. My Rechner is working very hard. That's okay. I write about Mr. Anderson. Oh.
Maybe he's a very nice person.
Okay. First thing.
Long-time fan of your work.
Mr. Anderson asks very good questions.
And is good at complimenting.
Example. This question. So, Mr. Anderson. So we don't have a link here because it will be deleted because it's in the live chat. So I just put it in the live.
Thanks YouTube for not storing this text with the video.
So, and I have some dummy text here and perhaps a third thing about Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson is perhaps Swedish. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Anderson.
Sandra Lindholm.
What?
Lindholm. Maybe Norwegian? Oh, whatever.
Lindholm. I don't know.
Everyone can become a Zettel.
Yeah.
Crushed and put into the archive. And then the real life
so
properties become
it's
irrelevant.
Swedish, but I don't mind God.
If you want to become a Zettel too, next time...
Don't distract me, please, with shit comments. Distract me with good comments.
Here's a book. I already said that he seems to be a very overall nice person and well behaved.
Jokes with the references on the Matrix movie are quite funny.
At least for you,
yeah,
and sometimes at me.
At least for me
too. And, yeah.
Christian.
What about the rest of the world?
Not
so far, nobody has commented on the YouTube links I put in there.
So now you can see the note gets very big and not very handy. This is one.
Norwegian. I knew it.
Okay, this is good stuff. So we can demonstrate new information put in there. So this is my view on Mr. Anderson from this date, and it's 5 p.m. and 10 minutes. So, Mr. Anderson
It's not Swedish.
asks good questions. Then I would put this in here. Anderson question, and then I tag it. Huh? Every time.
Yes.
Not every time. Most of the time.
I have not seen any time without O.
Okay, so we can hear. And with citations, if you read a book, and that would be another story. So you have to be careful, because if you like this, you splitting up a note like this, you can be too fast for the automatic creation of the ID, and then you get doubles. Like, for example, if I do it from like this, okay, this is not.
Damn clock.
So this would be a double. So you have to be careful and perhaps manually make new number, put in new number. Mr. Anderson, dummy. Text was.
I thought you wanted to be offending.
Not this time. But perhaps I can be offending another time, Mr. Anderson. Anderson.
Ha! Again! Just calling out the...
Christian needs every victory he can get, because he has a very difficult phase in its life.
I tore something in my lower body and now I have to get operated.
It's what? Hernia with some other word?
Yeah, ingenious? No, in gestural.
His guts come out
spilling out like in a zombie movie.
This
with all the
is Swedish. And we don't know.
But don't worry.
We know that this is not true.
I will probably not die.
So, Anderson, Sweden.
I politely want to point out that he mistyped his name.
Sweden. So.
Hey, wait a second, I didn't notice the mark on my person.
So.
Humor? Isn't humor with OU the stuff that is in your
body? I don't know.
Okay.
It's
welcome to bad English class.
So, Christian is an idiot, very important.
Hashtag. He has it in this real Zettelkasten too, I think.
Humor, whatever it calls. So, now we have this. Christian has no humor, so he don't laughs at this joke. Okay, what do I do? Okay, first things first. Now I'm searching for the overview. Now you can see I have a structured zettel.
Out of nowhere.
Because what I did is to extract the content of the I extracted the content of the node and just left the links to the nodes or to the content I extracted, and what I'm left is with a structured zettel. That is one good thing about the Zettelkasten method, because it provides you with real steps for what you're doing in knowledge work, because you're separating the content from the structure of knowledge. That is, in my opinion, the essence of knowledge work.
Interesting that we talk 1 hour about reading and blogging and stuff like that, and then the essence of knowledge work gets stuffed in.
Like a good book.
Yeah.
First, 300 pages of nonsense, and then a good idea.
We should put more anecdotes in there.
Okay, it would be not a good book. So what I do now is I
But well fit for the
put
US
it like
market.
this because it's an NVL specific. So it is easier for me to change the title afterwards. For example, now
Remember, folks, when you link to the title, you link to something that may change. So it's not a good idea to rely on that.
never link to the title, always link to the ID. So Mr. Anderson is not Swedish. So I learned a new thing about Mr. Anderson. So let's imagine I'm here. Ah, yeah, you can see it. And I learned something about Mr. Anderson. So hashtag Anderson. Mr. Anderson is Swedish. How strange. He's Norwegish, but the name is Swedish. Then I can either change it directly or I make a change log. For example, I thought that Mr. Anderson is. I know, I'm super duper.
Oh, the title is.
Yeah, bad luck.
But no,
I
he's
thought
not.
it's Swedish, but in a big fight, we figured out that he is Norwegian. Old assumption. So, old assumption was this. This is, I don't do it like you, but it's a possibility. So now if we go on the overview note on Mr. Anderson, we can go here and see, okay, Mr. Anderson Swedish, how interesting, why is he Swedish? Then we see that, okay, he's not Norwegian. Imagine that's a big archive and such things happen. You don't have all the time every information and you don't search something like, oh, Christian has a bad humor, just interesting. Then I would correct it is Norwegian. So, this is a bottom-up version of creating an overview. So this is rather small, and let's imagine Mr. Anderson is a very important philosopher. Perhaps you are. We decide that you are. Now you are a very important philosopher. Then I put it like this. I make this double hashed. Oh. So it's on the minor. Now we have created and marked overview. This is my convention. You don't have to do it like that.
So this is a level 2 overview, but is there a level 1?
We have only this level 1. Okay, it's about flow. Yeah, I demonstrated it last time. But we have said that Mr. Anderson is a great philosopher. So we philosophers. Okay, please work. Yes. So
if you learn more keyboard shortcuts, you can be even more productive than Sascha is, and maybe outrun him.
Yes.
Always learn.
But then I will find you and kill you.
But don't tell him.
So
I use the mouse all the time.
A level 1 overview, and in my own archive, okay, I am a bit too lazy. will show you in my archive.
Ah, dang, I wanted to point out something.
What then?
Oh, what a... Yeah.
I'm master in English.
I wanted to point out that I would have preferred intuitively, without much thinking, to create a new node with the new fact that Mr. Anderson is in fact Norwegian, and then link these two and have a discussion settle without... You put this into one node because maybe this information is not central to your work because you're not a family researcher or something. But I would, so maybe if some other node would have pointed to 2017 03 09 1715, which is Mr. Anderson is Swedish, so their links don't get broken.
Yeah, the links wouldn't get broken because the link in my head, also to me, the link is towards Mr. Anderson's nationality. So if other nodes link to his nationality, they link always to this node. So every other node, when I correct this node, every other node gets, in quotations, the right information. So from every other node that links to Mr. Anderson's nationality, I would go to the right information, or at least the best information I have, and then it would be correct. But another way is perhaps there's no vegan. This could be another thing like this. And is it Norwegisch?
Is Norwegian.
Norwegian.
It's both.
It's both?
No.
What is Sodom and Gomorrah? What is Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yeah, it's this English stuff. Never know.
So, Swedish, Norwegian. So, perhaps backlink. You can, like this, you can enrich your archive with something like a changelog or something like that.
No. So wouldn't you put this at the beginning like an alert or attention-seeking paragraph or no exclamation mark? No, Norwegian. Yes.
I think what I would do is just rename it in Mr. Anderson's nationality, and then link to no Norwegian. And okay, I will do it, but we have only very few
electricity pieces.
It's
a computer.
Mr. Anderson is Swedish.
And you see, because Sascha doesn't use links to the node titles, he can have similarly named nodes, as you see in the left-hand screen sidebar, but they have different IDs, and it doesn't break stuff while he works on this. Isn't that nice?
Brutal, not nice.
Oh yeah. And now he's renaming it from is Swedish to nationality. Just like that, and the world has changed. We were always at war with East Asia. Oh. Nobody laughs because nobody's here who has read Orwell's 1984, but that's okay.
You mean me?
Maybe you laugh at home.
I don't think you are
If
funny.
you laugh at home, please send me a picture of you laughing, because I don't have much social contact. Now that I always sit in my bed, wait to heal my serious wounds.
Evidences.
You can also send me cat pictures, self-made, of course.
Is no
but I don't like cats.
So. And what I do to make it very beautiful is like this. Oh,
It's hideous.
It's beautiful.
Why,
Tears in my eyes
why you
because
know
of the
put
beauty.
the link into the beginning so it is aligned well without looking like a.
Because it's like pages. This is the meaning, and this is
But now you have dots in your document and they stay there. They're not just. They're meant for visualization of the content,
Yes,
but now
good.
they're part of the
yeah, very good.
content itself. It's like going back
Ex-
200 years to Word documents.
Very good, yeah, like I said. So now you can see Mr. Anderson's nationality, and if I go on here, is a Norwegian, and I go there, and then the rest would unfold even if I go to this note a couple of years ago. So everything is in place. Christian has a bad humor. I think that wraps it up. 5% left in my battery. Have a nice day. What would you say?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Have
Okay.
a nice day. I'm fine with that.